Once hailed as the modern prince who broke the mold, Prince Harry now seems determined to break ties with more than just royal tradition, starting with his last name. Rumours swirling through the British press suggest the Duke of Sussex has been toying with the idea of dropping Windsor altogether in favour of Spencer, his late mother's maiden name. It's a move that feels less like a tribute to Diana and more like a not-so-subtle rejection of everything his father, brother, and the monarchy stand for. And while it might sound noble on paper, the reality is far messier. For someone who once claimed to be stepping back from royal life for privacy and peace, rebranding yourself with your most emotionally loaded family connection seems like a choice soaked in theatrical symbolism. The irony runs deep. His children, Archie and Lilibet, carry the Mountbatten-Windsor surname. If Harry makes the switch, he'd become the outlier in his own household. Is this about honouring his mother or disowning his royal roots? And if he truly wants to start over, why choose a name that's still dripping in aristocratic legacy? It's like trading one crown for another, only shinier and more emotionally curated. Meanwhile, Meghan isn't exactly sitting this one out. The former actress has reportedly distanced herself from her birth name too, subtly pushing the narrative that Markle is passé. In its place, she's doubling down on Sussex, a royal title she now wears more like a brand than a formal designation. From her lifestyle ventures to her public appearances, everything screams reinvention. But scratch the surface and it's hard not to wonder if the new names are just polished labels on the same well-worn story. What's unfolding here isn't just a couple embracing a fresh start, it's a full-blown identity reset in real time. Prince Harry shedding Windsor while Meghan leans into Sussex feels less like healing and more like rewriting. Together, they're not just a family, they're a duo on a rebranding tour with all the curated messaging and lifestyle branding you'd expect from a Silicon Valley startup. Except this isn't tech, it's trauma repackaged for modern media. Every Instagram-friendly rollout, podcast soundbite, and soft-focus promo suggests that the goal isn't just to move on from the past, but to control how it's remembered. But the public isn't as easy to reprogram. People still remember who Meghan was before the wedding, a working actress with modest fame, a supporting role on a cable legal drama, and a lifestyle blog with a loyal but niche following. Now she's aiming to be recognized by a title bestowed by the very institution she once denounced. And Harry, once known for his rebellious streak and military service, is now more commonly associated with documentaries about his feelings, staged polo tournaments, and headlines about his strained family ties. The tension is obvious. How do you shed your old self when your entire public image is rooted in who you used to be? You can change the label, the logo, the packaging, but when the public opens the box and finds the same grievances inside, the rebrand starts to feel like a recycled pitch. They've traded castles for content deals, protocol for press strategies, but they're still telling the same story: misunderstood, mistreated, and monetizing it all on the way out. And the world is starting to wonder if this brand reboot is running out of steam. If reinvention was the goal, Netflix was supposed to be the launch pad. The streaming giant handed the Sussexes a reported $100 million deal and total creative freedom, expecting royal exclusivity, untold secrets, and content that could captivate a global audience. What it got instead? Gloomy documentaries, awkward interviews, and projects that seemed more like therapy sessions than entertainment. The numbers didn't lie. Interest peaked early, then plummeted. The buzz faded. The headlines shifted from anticipation to apathy. And the content itself? A parade of grievances, slow pacing, and heavy-handed attempts to be relatable. Harry's first solo project, a documentary spotlighting veterans and mental health, was noble in mission, but barely registered with viewers. Then came the Polo series, a glossy, slow-motion love letter to a sport most people only know from luxury brand ads and royal photo ops. No narrative tension, no viral moments, no cultural conversation, just sweeping drone shots of horses and Harry trying yet again to be seen as more than a prince. The public didn't tune out because they were cruel, they tuned out because they were bored. And Netflix, they noticed. According to insiders, the platform isn't pulling the plug on royal content, just tightening the spotlight. Meghan is reportedly getting solo focus going forward. The logic's simple. She moves headlines, she sparks curiosity, and in a media landscape obsessed with visibility, she's more marketable than her increasingly sidelined husband. Harry may have traded the palace for personal freedom, but in the land of streaming, freedom comes with metrics. And if you're not performing, you're politely edited out. The irony stings. He left the monarchy to escape hierarchy, only to find himself sliding down a new kind of royal ranking, this time ruled by engagement stats. For all the controlled messaging and media appearances, nothing exposes the cracks in a celebrity brand quite like satire. And when the public gets tired of the story, parody does what press releases can't. It hits the nerve. That's exactly what happened when a certain animated show took aim at the Sussexes, delivering a brutal takedown that turned their privacy journey into punchlines and memes. It was savage, ridiculous, and yet uncannily effective. Because satire doesn't just exaggerate, it distills. It captures the contradictions and delivers them in a way that sticks. Harry and Meghan's decision to craft a new public image may have been strategic, but once comedy enters the conversation, you're no longer the narrator. The cultural conversation shifts from what you're trying to say to what people now see you as. And that image often isn't flattering. The couple, once viewed as brave escapees from a toxic institution, are now being cast as opportunists who traded royal roles for media deals and then claimed victimhood when the reception wasn't glowing. What makes parody so dangerous for public figures isn't the jokes, it's the clarity. Stripped of soft lighting, branded partnerships, and carefully chosen podcast quotes, the story becomes raw. A prince trying to stay relevant, a duchess crafting a lifestyle empire, and a growing sense that the public sympathy well has run dry. The moment they became caricatures, the control slipped. Because in the court of public opinion, laughter spreads faster than pity, and once you've become a meme, it's almost impossible to steer the narrative back. The more they try to correct the image, the louder the satire echoes. And now the couple faces the very spotlight they once tried to escape, but this time it's coming from every direction, and none of it is scripted. The most brutal twist in Prince Harry's post-royal journey isn't public ridicule, it's quiet exclusion. For a man who once stood at the center of the world stage, marching behind his mother's coffin in front of millions, he now finds himself increasingly on the margins of his own story. While Meghan is reportedly carving out solo projects and exploring brand extensions, Harry's visibility has started to fade. His name still sparks interest, but the substance behind it has thinned. The public doesn't quite know what he stands for anymore, and worse, they're not sure they care to find out. He left the firm to find his voice, but outside the royal walls, there's no guaranteed script, no built-in audience. And unlike Meghan, who seems to thrive in the performance of public life, Harry looks increasingly like someone caught between two worlds, too famous to be anonymous, too aimless to be compelling. The man who once vowed to protect his family is now watching from the sidelines as he gets slowly cropped out of the brand. In entertainment, relevance is currency, and silence is expensive. Netflix isn't cancelling him, they're just quietly moving the camera. Meghan stays in frame, Harry fades just outside it. For someone who walked away to be seen as his own person, the irony couldn't be sharper. Freedom came with asterisks, and independence meant standing alone, sometimes far away from the spotlight he once took for granted. What happens when the man who rejected royal life becomes a ghost in the media world he traded it for? As platforms pivot and projects retool, it's starting to look like Harry's next big role might not be a headline maker at all, but a cautionary tale in what happens when reinvention outpaces relevance. At this point, the question isn't whether Harry and Meghan are changing, it's whether anyone is still buying the transformation. What began as a royal exit has turned into a public performance, choreographed down to every podcast, product launch, and Instagram caption. From new last names to reimagined narratives, the couple isn't just distancing themselves from their past, they're trying to erase it altogether. But memory has a way of lingering, and the internet never forgets. No matter how many times they change the logo, people remember the original packaging. For Meghan, embracing the title Sussex while sidestepping her actual surname feels like a branding move, disguised as reinvention. For Harry, flirting with the Spencer name while rejecting Windsor reeks less of healing and more of unresolved identity. Together, they've built a world where everything is marketable: grief, trauma, and even silence. But the more polished it becomes, the harder it is for audiences to feel anything real. Authenticity, once their selling point, now feels staged. And as satire bites harder and Hollywood becomes colder, the narrative is shifting. Not because their story isn't important, but because it's been told, and retold, without the evolution people were hoping for. They were supposed to inspire a new chapter beyond the crown. Instead, they're stuck in a loop, editing their past while trying to script a future the audience isn't sure they want to keep watching. In the end, the story of Harry and Meghan may not be a tale of triumph or tragedy. It might just be a case study in modern fame: how fast you can rise, how loud you can fall, and how easily the world moves on. The real legacy? How they handle being tuned out.